Take two. I filmed this entire video, and then only when I decided to go and edit it did I realize that there was no sound. I don't know what I did wrong, but here's take two. Hi, hello, I'm Liz, and in today's video we will be chatting about why you should be considering a public relations strategy for your small business. Recently, I received a lot of public relations opportunities in the form of speaking opportunities. So whether they were virtual events, I got an opportunity to speak to a Facebook group of small businesses and bloggers who are all focusing on SEO, and speak to them about brand storytelling and how to create meaningful connections. I also did an in-person event where I spoke about personal branding, and more recently I spoke to the Public Speakers Association of South Africa's Johannesburg chapter, again on brand storytelling and creating meaningful connections. Attending all of these events really made me realize the importance of a good public relations strategy. So let's start with defining what PR actually is. Now, public relations is a type of communication strategy where a brand builds a meaningful relationship with the public. That relationship is a lot more equal than an advertising relationship, and it's generally done with the help through third-party organizations. So think of PR as a third party posting about a brand and the public having an opportunity to get to know the brand better because of that third party involvement, whether it's a social media influencer or a prominent news site posting about the brand. You might have heard of key phrases that make you immediately think of PR, like public image management or reputation management. So it's all about a brand's public image and the public perception it creates. There's a really great saying, advertising is what you pay for and PR is what you pray for. And it's because of that public perception, right? It's creating a type of public perception of a brand, and advertising cannot create that same level of perception by its own. PR also includes things like community management, public relations, media relations. It even includes corporate social investment. And of course, the one we're probably most familiar with, crisis management. So in the next part of the video, I'd like to offer some tips as to why a small business should really be considering a PR strategy. And it's really because of that trust factor that PR builds. Advertising doesn't have that same level of trust factor. Why is there a trust factor with public relations? Firstly, it's because there's a human element. Often, PR strategies involve things like interviews or articles being written about people, interviews over things like podcasts, on video, and so forth. Now, there's a human element there, and when there's a human element, there's immediate trust, or it's easier than the type of trust when there's a more organic interaction between two people than a campaign, for instance. A person is being interviewed. Yes, it might be a representative of a brand, but there is a person. There is a person speaking on behalf of the brand, and that already sets PR apart from things like advertising campaigns. The nice thing about PR, and why it also adds a level of trust, is that it predominantly relies on language. You can have a lot more words present in the PR strategy or the PR campaign than you can in an advertising campaign. Where advertising campaign relies on short and impact copy, because you want to grab someone's attention in a very quick way. PR allows for more copy to be used. So in an interview, people can talk. There's longer explanations that are possible. Even in an article, there's more words being used when someone is writing about a specific brand. PR also doesn't work alone. The magic of PR is that it works really well in an overall integrated communications approach. So think of it this way. When someone is sitting in their car and they're driving to work and they're listening to the radio, there's an advert coming up about brand X. Okay, they take note of brand X. Then they might see a social media advert of brand X on their social media. Again, they're taking note of it. But now they're listening to their favorite podcast, and someone from brand X is talking to the person who's facilitating this podcast. There's a lot stronger connection there that can be built with brand X. Now that person is hearing about brand X from someone that they potentially trust, and if they just had to hear the advert on the radio, it might not have made the same impact as when there was this organic conversation happening on the podcast. Doing these things in conjunction with one another, right? Running the advertising campaigns and having a great PR strategy, it all adds another level of trust that advertising by itself doesn't really do necessarily. Lastly, PR is generally a little bit more trusted than advertising. So what do I mean by this? Firstly, because there's a third party talking about brand X, for instance, there's a level of credibility and trust, right? The advertising comes from the brand itself, so it is generally maybe perceived a little bit more skeptically than if a third party had to talk about brand X. PR is also a little bit more natural, it allows for more organic conversations, and that's what overall brings the trust factor higher than that of something like advertising. And this can be really beneficial for small businesses, because small businesses need a louder voice than the bigger brands do. And PR can really give that bigger voice, that louder voice to smaller businesses. Smaller businesses often have already that trust factor because that's why people support them, right? Because of how small they are or how local they are. So having something like PR adding to that can really increase that brand's awareness. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in seeing more educational content related to PR, we have a Facebook group called Building Brand Love. I'll leave the link to it in the description box below. And in the month of August, I focus predominantly on offering PR education. So feel free to join the group if you want to know about more specific PR related strategies for your small business. And as always, if you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel to grow and it helps me to post more educational content for you on the channel. Thank you again. See you in the next one. Bye bye.